Hey everyone, how's it going? I've got quite an interesting video for you today. QHY got in contact and asked if I'd like to take a look at this, their QHY Q-Focuser High-Precision version. Now this comes in two different types. There is the High-Precision one, which I have in my hand right here, and there is also the standard version, which my friend Queeve the Lazy Geek just recently took a look at over on his channel. Now, regardless of which version you're interested in, I urge you to go check his video out. He raises a lot of great points about these focusers. And in true Queeve style, he just made an overall interesting video, and it's well worth a watch. So the main difference, anyway, before we get into this, between the version that Queeve took a look at, the standard one, and this high precision one, is that this allows you to retain discrete manual focus control over your telescope, which in some cases is going to be a very interesting feature if you like to switch between many different types of setup, going from deep space to a bar load planetary setup, or perhaps with a power mate or something similar, or maybe even just like I want to do, taking a look sometimes visually at the stars. When you've got a normal automated focuser setup, it can be difficult to switch between those setups and get things back in focus swiftly and not waste much of the night. This should fix that. So it's very interesting to see. I hope it performs as advertised. We're going to jump in and take a look at it in just a moment. Now, I just want to say as well, of course, this isn't my unit. It's just sent over for review, although I'm sure I should have the opportunity to purchase it at the end of the review period if I wish, which if it performs as advertised, I probably will, because it does fill quite a little bit of an interesting gap in my equipment in this observatory. So let's jump in and take a look. Alright then guys, so here the box is. It's a very nice, attractive presentation box, if that matters to you. Just pop this off. Comes pretty well packaged, it seems. Everything looks nice and fine in there. Now let's just take a look at the wiring situation first. So we have a USB cable right there that terminates in USB-C for the focuser itself. We have a temperature probe, as you can see right there, both ends of that, as it does have a temperature input, of course, as well. We have a power adapter cable, as the actual power unit in the back of this, as my friend Queeve mentioned in his video, is very small. So if you want to use it with the standard 5.5 by 2.1 millimeter power jack, which you don't have to, by the way, it's only in certain cases you would want to use supplemental power, you can do that with this short link cable. Moving on a little bit more, we have the main mounting plate for the bottom of the focuser. As you can see, this is utilizing a slotted design, so as long as your focuser has screw holes present which match up with this thing, you've got a lot of linear adjustment. Not too much kind of laterally, if you will, not too much play, but you do have a lot of linear adjustment on that, so that's quite a nice design, I think. Just in here we have a couple of Allen keys. They look okay. Now there's an important point I want to fetch up right now looking at these. So I'll just get these out for you a second. It comes with 3 different couplers. Now we're looking at the correct side right here. We can see in size order, if I just place them like this, going from largest to the middle sized to the very smallest spline, which actually supports a spline of a minimum of 3 millimeters diameter for your focuser. That is something to bear in mind, because not all focusers on their fine focus knob, which is the side that you fit this particular unit, will have a 3 millimeter diameter spline. So just make sure, if you are thinking of this version, that your focuser's fine focuser unit, that's the, just for the sake of showing you, that's this side, has a spline of at least 3 millimeters. The standard version fits on this side, which is usually a much thicker shaft. Let's go a little bit deeper. So in here, it looks like we have various spacers for the mounting plates, which we do. So as we can see, they've made a lot of different spaces available, so this should fit just about any telescope, I would have thought, aside from something like a Schmidt Cassegrain, which usually requires a different type of autofocusing setup, which leaves the focuser kind of facing at the telescope. And in this last bag, what do we have here? M5 by 14 mils, 4 of those. M5 by 10 mil, 4 of those. M5 by 12, 4 of those. M4 by 14, 4 of those. M4 by 12, 4 again. M4 by 10, 4 of them. And finally, 2 each of M3 by 10 and M3 by 5. So that is quite the bolt set, I have to say. There should be everything you need present right there. Now this is the Q-Focuser itself, and I have to say, wow, I'm immediately impressed upon picking that thing up. Hopefully you can see what I was talking about the actual power unit being a little bit smaller than normal. So make sure, if you do wish to use this thing with supplementary power, it will just work in most cases just on USB-C provided power only. But if you do want to use it with supplementary power, you will need this link cable to turn it from that small jack into a standard 5.5 by 2.1. You can see the jack right there for the temperature probe, which I'll also be using, and just your standard USB Type-C. Now, the main feature on this we're really interested in is the fact that it has this. As you can see, it's got a little bit of a step to it. Hopefully that is coming through. It feels very nice in the hand. There's a little bit of feedback as you're moving it. And you can see it's directly linked to the shaft. There is no backlash, or at least they say there is no backlash on this version, as it doesn't have a gearbox. It's just directly linked. That's, I guess, why it needs to be used on the fine focuser side of your focusing unit. That's going to act as its kind of gearbox, if you will. So, initial impressions rather, are very positive. It feels high quality. Nothing is, you know, loose as you would expect. It's a nearly solid metal device, and I'm impressed. I really like the feel of that focus knob, I have to say. I think it'd be easy, even with very cold fingers, to make sure you can feel what you're doing. There's that little bit of feedback. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead now and get this fitted to the telescope. Alright then guys, so as you can see, we're here at the telescope with the old EAF just removed and the focuser put back completely to normal, so its usual function is fully restored. Now, I've just taken a little bit of a look beforehand to try and figure out what I'm going to need for this installation. So obviously you're going to need the focuser, the main mounting plate. In my case, I think we're going to need 4 of these mounting plates, which have, hopefully you can see, a small milled raised area. So if I just put this to the mounting plate there, you can see it's able to slide linearly, but can't kind of slip out sideways. So 4 of those, and then 2 of the remaining plain spacer plates. In terms of bolts, I needed the M3 by 5mm, 2 of those, and the M4 by 14. I would imagine 2 of those. And the coupler, I did just test this off camera. I needed the middle-sized one for this TS Optics focuser, which is the 4mm. There's a 3, a 4, and a 5mm provided. So let's just get stuck in and actually go through the process of installing this thing for you on camera, so you can get an idea of if it's something you want to actually do or not. So we're just taking off the fine focus knob. I'll put that safely to one side. Now, there is no particular orientation of importance on this. It is a smooth shaft with no flat spot, and as you'll note, this is actually it's almost a bit like a small clutch. It's not got a metal to metal contact point anyway. It's all bushed through this plastic part in the middle. So I'm going to take the small side, put that on this shaft, and without having it grinding up against the side of this, because these 2 parts are going to move at 2 different rates, that would wear into the side of this fine focuser, I'm going to bring it just slightly away and then nip it into place. So that's touching. Bring it just slightly away from the side of that coarse adjustment knob and then nip it up into place. That's very nice. Do bear in mind, if you are fitting these, there is some slight aluminium burrs and such that you could get caught in your skin. Just be mindful of that. Next up, I'm going to attach the Q-Focuser to the mounting plate itself. Now I want these small recesses facing upwards, and I'm just going to fit it basically like this. I'll get the bolts out. So I'm using the shorter of the mounting bolts right here. So I'll drop these into their recesses first, if you can see. And then you can see the remaining protrusion. There's quite a bit still going through. There's plenty, certainly for the purposes of this. And I'll just put that into those front two mounting points right there. And if I can find the right Allen key, I'll give these just a little start. Now, this is still completely free to move. As you can see, I'm going to give it a little push with my thumb away in the hopes of making this thing completely square as I wind down and fully attach it. So that's remained nice and square. I do believe I'll just go ahead and fully tighten those parts now. That's good. And now I'm going to identify, that's this one that we need. And now I'm going to push the shaft of the focus motor into the opposite end of the coupling. Get that into a usable, tightenable position. And now we're going to do up the other end of the coupling down onto the focuser shaft fully. So that is now tightened. I'll just make sure the other end of the coupling is tight too. There we go. So that's everything attached fully tightly now. As you can see, as I mentioned, this thing is on a flexible coupling, so we do have quite a lot of movement. That's normal. It's to be expected. You want to make sure this thing's fully shoved up, because if I do this enough, I'll be able to wind this part apart. So you want to make sure it's fully shoved up, and then go from there in figuring out how many spacers you're going to need. Now, just by holding these up against the side, I think I'm going to need one flat spacer and one bumped spacer. So I'm going to try and lift these into position, just going underneath. So that's hopefully going to work out. Now, where's my screw hole? There it is. I'm now pushing down on this plate, and I've jumped the gun slightly because I actually need to get one of these bolts out. Let's get two out. So now I want to kind of get these lined up. If I could stop dropping things, pass it through, figure out how to square this all up. So I'm just doing it by feel, making those spaces square on the edges right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just slightly wind that down. Not completely right now, but it is just nipped. Because I'm actually going to go ahead and put this on the opposite side at this moment in time. So, same thing. I'm going to pass this one underneath first, as there's now less room to maneuver. As you can see, that one's now a tight sliding fit. And I'm going to get this awkward one done actually first. So this time it's going to be a full installation. I'll use this top plate as well. Pass this through if I can, which I actually seemingly just can bite down. So it's just long enough as that bolt. If you had a slightly longer bolt on hand, then I would recommend it. But as we don't, we're going to use what we've got. There's still enough turns of thread for it to be securely held. Right, so before I fully finish tightening this down now, apologies for any seeming time wasted on this. I just like things to be nice and square, if at all possible. I'll go ahead and finish tightening these. No need to go absolutely crazy. And that is all nice and tight. And as you can see, using the Q-Focuser still works. I actually can use the coarse control too, and it just spins the whole thing. Really quite impressed with that installation. I think it's gone off fairly well. Hope that was useful to see. Well then guys, that's the installation finished, and I think that about wraps things up for me. I'm quite happy with how it went on. I do like the mounting system, even though in this particular case, trying to do it on camera and things was a little bit fiddly, to be honest. But it is on there. It is on there tight as well. Everything's nice and solid, and I'm happy that it's not really going to go anywhere. So now the hardware kind of thing is taken care of. All that's left to do is put the software or the QHY Q-Focuser onto my imaging PC, make it talk to Nina, and from there it should be, fingers crossed, smooth sailing and a lot of enjoyable nights to come with any luck, if it ever clears up anyway. So that's about it from me. If you found this video useful, then please do consider leaving a like on it for me. It really does help me out. It really does actually help me to do what I'm doing and grow this channel. So thank you if you can do that for me. And otherwise, I'd just like to say thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope you enjoy the videos, the efforts that go into those, and that is about it. So look after yourselves. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then though, clear skies.